Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you my 2 cents, my opinion on forward-facing sonar, some information about it, and all the good stuff that I feel is relevant, and an example that I've had without using it. So before we get into that, I want to remind you guys, go check out AROOutdoorsapparel.com. Get hats like that. We got a couple other hats there too, and we got some hoodies, t-shirts, and some tank tops as well. So feel free to check that out. Purchase some hats, purchase some apparel for your next outdoor adventure, and support this channel. So now let's just jump right into this. So there's a huge controversy out there on forward-facing sonar. A lot of people against it, a lot of people for it, and all this other stuff. And some are thinking it's ruining fishing. I can't speculate whether it's ruining fishing or not. However, I do know that because of it, we are catching more fish suspended and out away from cover that we weren't catching before. And so that's gonna affect those fish. It's gonna affect the mood of those fish, which could in turn infect them. Those are the same fish that do sometimes go up shallow. So it could, and I'm saying could a lot because I don't know for sure, but it could affect those fish as well. I'm not really sure, but that controversy is going on. It's like it's ruining fishing, it's ruining tournament fishing. Okay, whatever. That's honestly, okay. So I'm in between. There's times I don't use it, and there's times I do use it. But I will be honest. Tournament fishing, if you're watching on TV, yeah, it's a little bit boring when you're just watching a guy looking at the sonar. But you got to realize what they're doing, and you have to know why they're doing it. And I think it's a little bit better now that they're showing that sonar on the screen. Kind of makes it look like lets you see what they're seeing and what they're going after. So that helps, and it's a little bit more exciting. We can see the fish come up to their bait, hit it, and then they set the hook. So that's a little bit better. But I get a lot of people's dislike about it in tournament fishing. I'm on the fence. I'm not for either side. I use it without, and I use it with. There's a lot of times when I'm fishing up shallow, I really don't use it a whole lot. I mean, sometimes I'll look, if I see a wall of weeds, I might look at it to see when my jig comes out of those weeds, if there's anything chasing it. That's really about it. Sometimes you don't even see it. With that, the controversy is out there. It's just so widespread, and there's a lot of different opinions. So just please take this with a grain of salt. And this is just my opinion. It might not be right, might be totally wrong, might be, I don't know. I have it, obviously. You guys have seen it in my videos, and and I don't mind it. I wanted to try it because there's the tournaments I fish in, most of them are smallmouth, and a lot of the bigger bags of smallmouth are coming offshore. Sometimes you can nail them off of docks and some shallow rocks in boulders, which is fine, but a lot of the bigger smallmouth are offshore, and a lot of them are roaming. So it makes it easier to see them when they're roaming, and having it for these those kinds of tournaments helps me not get my teeth kicked in as bad. But with those tournaments, you gotta have something. I mean, if the other guys are using it, you got to. I mean, there's a lot of better anglers out there than me, so they could probably do way better than I can without it. But with these fish offshore, and I'm not that great of an offshore angler, but with these fish offshore, it definitely does help. And if these guys are using it, you got to be able to compete. And if it's going to be a bank, kind of like a bank tournament, fish in the bank is what I'm trying to say. Type of a tournament or fishing that cover, I barely even use it, because usually I'm fishing weed cover, and you can't see much underneath the water. You're punching, and sometimes you just can't see it anyways. I do use it. And then there's also the times where if I'm fishing up shallow, sometimes I just get tired of looking at it, and I will just start casting. I'll just fish, and for me that's fun. I do like to just go up there and just fish. Sometimes I will have it down, but a lot of the times I won't even look at it. So like I said, guys, I'm on the fence about forward-facing sonar. I like it and I don't like it. I'm about 50-50. I understand why a lot of guys are using it. I really do. I mean, it is catching a ton. It is helping them catch a ton of fish. It's helped me catch some fish that I normally wouldn't have seen. But as far as shallow cover, I really don't use it that much. Do you really need it? I don't know. I can tell you one thing. What I have learned from it is when you see a fish come through, you've got a bait. For example, let's just use an example, a crankbait, okay? I'm throwing a square bill, and yes, this is up shallow. So I'm throwing a square bill, and I have, say, a chartreuse black color, chartreuse back black square bill, and just burning it through. I see a fish chasing it, and he doesn't get quite to it, and then he turns away. Okay, so that's telling me that it interested that fish, but it didn't really commit. So then I'll either change colors or I'll change baits until I see that fish actually commit. And what that is telling me is I'm learning what kind of a bait, what kind of color that fish is in the mood for. And then what I can do is I can take that information and then look at the weather, whatever's happening around, if it's cloudy, if it's sunny, and take notes of that and put the two together. And when you can do that, sometimes you can figure out patterns even before they even happen. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but it's a good place to start. So and it teaches you kind of what the fish's reaction towards different baits and all that stuff. So that's what I use. That's what I like about it. What I learned from it. It does. One other use that I use it for is it's this kind of a what I was going to buy the 360 for. I don't have a 360 imaging. I did for a little bit, and I got rid of it because it wasn't the Mega, and I really wanted the Mega, so I was going to get that. Then instead, I got the forward-facing sonar, and in the future, we'll probably get another 360. So forward-facing sonar, that helps me see like weed edges too. So and it and of course, just like the 360 imaging, you can see how far out that weed edge is, and I really like that. So I can come up to an area where I know there's weeds, and I can stay backed off a bit. I can stay backed off, and I can cast up into those weeds. And I use this I used that in a couple of tournaments of mine. Now I knew I couldn't see the fish, but I used that to see the weed lines. I'm like, okay, weed lines 60 feet out. So I casted way out there. I was throwing a Texas rigged worm, straight tail worm, 8-inch straight tail worm. Threw it straight out there. I got about 10-15 feet in the weeds. I was slowly dragging it out of the weeds, and then I started getting bit. And that's what I used for. I didn't see the fish, but I was getting bites that way. That's one thing. That's another use that I have for it. Do you really need it though? It depends. If you are in a body of water where your fish, like I've talked about before, these guys are catching them offshore, and these fish they're not at the bottom, but they're in mid depth, and they're moving. And if the fish are in that situation, and guys are catching them, then I really do like it for those situations. I do also like to see them use it for around boulders, because all I gotta do is scan over there and and take a look. And if there's a boulder down in, I don't know, say 20 feet of water, and you're like, well, wondering if there's a fish down there. So scan over there, instead of spending a ton of time casting at that boulder, which you can still do, and you can still catch fish. Instead of casting at that boulder, 10, 15, 20 times, you can see if there's any fish swimming around that boulder. And if you throw your bait around, you can see if it's attracted to your bait, if it, whatever it does. You can tell a lot faster. So it cuts down your search time for those fish. So, it does help with that. But when I'm fishing up shallow, a lot of times I don't really need it. And there is an example. So this happened by accident, honestly. I actually had just rigged up the forward-facing sonar, and this was last spring. And I wanted to go out to my lake, one of my favorite lakes, local lakes, and just work on these fish, just pre-spawn. I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into. I made a video of this, so go back and the proof of it is actually in the video. All my electronics are black. And I believe my trolling motor is even out of the water. and for reason being, my batteries had died. I had a battery issue. Something was draining them, but they're dead. So there's no reason to bring that trolling motor out or put the trolling motor in the water. So I had trolling motor out, and I had all my electronics off because I had no battery left. So I really had no electronics. I knew there was an area of a flat and that they could possibly push up on. So I just started fishing. I started with a search bait and I got a bite. And then I got another bite. So I thought, okay, well now this is a big swim bait video, by the way. So now I thought, well, I'm gonna throw the big dangerous swim bait. So I threw that out there, big bite right away. I thought, okay. And so I kept going and I found them. I had no forward-facing sonar. I had no other electronics. So if you know the time of the year, the water temperature, and then maybe it would probably best know what stage the fish are in or could be in, and then search those areas that those fish could be in at that stage, water temperature, and time of the year, and that'll help you out. I mean, that's all I did, and I landed on a pretty darn good school of 4 or 5 pounders. Didn't breach 6. That's the lake that I'm trying to catch the 6 pounder on. I know it exists. I'm gonna go back there until I do. Yeah, I know there's other lakes in Minnesota where you can catch bigger than a 6 pound largemouth, but this is just a lake that I want to keep going to. Anyways, so I didn't need the forward-facing sonar for that. I just fished and I caught them. So that's an example of where you don't really need it. You just gotta understand the water, the fish, and the areas, and look for those areas. Obviously, I kind of knew the area, and I guess the only thing that I would say is, if you're gonna go without, get a good map so you can see like flats, tapering points, and then that'll kind of help you figure things out too. And then just go old school. Just make a cast, count down how far down until your line goes slack, and then there you go. That's your rate. But you have to kind of test it out and see how fast it falls, and then just go old school like that. I mean, that works. But I didn't need it on that day. I didn't need I didn't need forward-facing sonar on that day, and that's just proof that you don't absolutely need it up shallow. Technically, if you're better angler than me, a lot of times you don't even need it out deep either. Before I got it, all I did is I ran around with my down imaging and side imaging out the sides and looked for boulders. If I found a boulder, marked it. All I did is went around. After a little while, after I found a bunch of boulders, I went around and I fished them. I didn't get a bite out of like 3 or 4 or 5 lures. Moved on to the next one. Try not to spend too much time on a boulder, because on any given lake there could be thousands of boulders. So you got to kind of pick your poison. And once you get a bite on something, then throw that around. But forward-facing sonar, guys, it's for me it's 50-50, and I mean, I do use it. I probably don't use it as much as the next guy, and I have uses that I like for it. And then there's times where I don't like to use it. I mean, at times I just don't use it at all. I just want to go fun fishing a lot of times. I'll just cast a buzzbait and just go down the bank. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know there's a lot of controversy out there. I just want to jump on here, give you guys my 2 cents on this. This is all my opinion. There's no hard facts other than my own experiences. The example that I gave where I didn't use forward-facing sonar, there is proof of that in my previous videos from last spring. So you can go ahead and check that out. Just go down through my videos, my spring fishing videos, and it'll be there. I think it's called, I think it's called It's Getting Dangerous in reference to the dangerous swim bait. So check that out. Again, guys, check out AROOutdoorsapparel.com. Get your outdoor apparel and support this channel. And I really appreciate you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Catch you in the next video.